All right, welcome. In this explainer, we're going to skip the heavy theory and actually get our hands dirty. We're looking at two essential ways to deploy your projects on the Google Cloud Platform. Okay, let's dive right in. We're going to walk through two really fundamental deployment methods. We'll start with this super simple one and then kind of level up from there. Seriously, think of this as your go-to guide, whether you're studying for an exam or just kicking off a new project. So here's the mission, plain and simple. We're going to figure out how to deploy both a static site, like a simple web page, and a full-on dynamic app all on Google Cloud. We're going to cover each one step by step. First step, path one, the static site. Let's start with the absolute basics, right? Hosting a static website. This is, hands down, the fastest way to get something live on the web using GCP. It's a skill you've just got to have. So what's our tool for the job? Google Cloud Storage. At its heart, it's just this massive, super durable place to stick your files. I mean, think of it like a hard drive in the cloud that you can get to from anywhere on the planet. That's what makes it absolutely perfect for hosting all your website's bits and pieces, the HTML, CSS, all that good stuff. And you know what? The process is ridiculously simple. It's really just 3 steps. First, you create what's called a bucket. That's just a container for your files. Now, the name for this bucket has to be unique across the entire world, and that's because it's going to be part of your website's URL. Once you've got that, you just upload your files, your index.html and everything else, and then flip the switch to make them public. That's basically it. And boom, that's literally it. The moment you set those permissions, your site is live. It's out there on the internet, accessible to anyone from this straightforward URL. For simple sites that don't need a lot of back-end magic, this is an unbelievably powerful and cheap way to get online. Okay, so we've mastered static sites. Let's level up. Now we're going to tackle something a bit more complex, a dynamic web application. And for that, we need a more powerful service. We're talking about Google App Engine. Okay, so you might be asking, why do we even need a different service? Well, the static site we just built, think of it like a printed brochure. The content is fixed, it doesn't change. A dynamic app, on the other hand, that's interactive. It runs code on a server to build a page on the fly. It can connect to a database to show you personalized info, handle your online shopping cart, or update your social feed. And that is exactly where App Engine shines. The very first thing you need for any App Engine project is this one crucial file, app.yaml. The best way to think about it, it's the instruction manual. It's you telling Google exactly how to run your application. So what's inside this file? Well, you're defining a few super important things. Runtime tells App Engine what language you're using, Python, Go, whatever, and sets up the environment. And then there's handlers. This part is like a traffic cop for your website. It tells App Engine which specific script to run when a user tries to visit a certain page or URL. All right, next up is main.py. This file holds your actual code. This is the brains of the whole operation. So if app.yaml is the instruction manual, main.py is the engine that's actually doing all the heavy lifting. Now, for our little example here, the code is about as simple as it gets. It uses a really common web framework called Flask to just listen for visitors. When someone hits the site, it just runs one little line of code that sends back the classic message, "Hello World." And guess what? Deploying this thing is also a super clean step-by-step process. You'll use Google's Cloud Shell, which is basically a terminal right in your browser. You get your code in there, and then you just run one single command, gcloud app deploy. That's it. Google's tools take over and handle literally everything else for you. And just like that, it's deployed. App Engine hands you a public URL. Your dynamic app is now officially running on Google's massive global infrastructure, and it's ready to automatically scale up to handle tons of traffic from all over the world. Pretty cool, right? So, we've seen both ways to do it in action. Now let's put them side by side. This is going to create some perfect exam-ready notes that really nail down the key differences between the two. This really is the million-dollar question, isn't it? When do you use each one? This is something every developer has to figure out when they start a new project on GCP. And the answer? Well, it completely depends on what you're trying to build. Okay, let's really break this down. Cloud storage is all about static hosting. You don't have much control over the infrastructure, but that's the point. It's incredibly simple. App Engine, on the other hand, is what we call a fully managed platform as a service, or PaaS.
That's a fancy way of saying it handles all the messy stuff for you, the servers, the scaling, the maintenance, so you can just focus on writing your code. All right, let's wrap this up. Let's boil everything we've talked about down into one final, super clear takeaway that you can use on your next project.
Here it is. This is the core rule you need to remember. Cloud storage is for things that are simple and static. It's perfect for a portfolio, assets for a blog, or a basic marketing site. App Engine is for things that are complex and dynamic. It's the go-to choice when your app needs server-side logic, user accounts, or connections to a database. It just takes care of all the server stuff for you. And that really just leaves one final thought. Now that you know the two main paths for getting a project live on Google Cloud, think about your next project. What are you going to build? Which deployment path are you going to take?